Stop wasting TNG's most underrated alien species. Here's why. The case for Star Trek's most underused power players. When people talk about the most iconic alien species in Star Trek, The Next Generation, the conversation usually drifts toward the Borg, the Klingons, or the Romulans. But buried beneath the shadows of cube-shaped dreadnoughts and bat'leth duels lies a species that was supposed to redefine the franchise's villains, and instead became its most misunderstood asset, the Ferengi. Yes, the Ferengi. Before they were bar owners cracking jokes on Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, before they were walking punchlines about profit and lobes, the Ferengi were introduced as something far more ambitious. And it's time to admit it. The Next Generation wasted one of its most creatively promising alien species. The original vision. Capitalism as the new Klingon empire. When the Ferengi debuted in TNG's first season, they weren't meant to be comic relief. Gene Roddenberry envisioned them as the 24th century's answer to ruthless capitalism, an ideological threat to the Federation's post-scarcity utopia. Think about that for a second. The Klingons represented honor-bound militarism. The Romulans embodied paranoia and secrecy. The Borg were technological collectivism taken to terrifying extremes. The Ferengi? They were unfiltered greed. In a universe where humanity had supposedly evolved beyond money, the Ferengi were a walking contradiction. They didn't want territory. They didn't want cultural assimilation. They wanted profit. That made them dangerous in a way Star Trek had never explored before. And yet, it didn't work. Why TNG fumbled the Ferengi? The problem wasn't the concept. It was execution. From their exaggerated physical mannerisms to their high-pitched shrieks and awkward combat scenes, the Ferengi's first appearance in The Last Outpost made them look less like credible adversaries and more like theatrical gremlins. It's hard to take a species seriously when their introduction involves energy whips and exaggerated crouching. The tonal mismatch was fatal. TNG was still finding its footing in Season 1, and the Ferengi suffered for it. Instead of leaning into the darker implications of profit-driven exploitation, corporate colonization, resource hoarding, predatory trade, the show reduced them to petty scavengers. They weren't terrifying. They were annoying. And in a franchise where menace matters, that distinction is everything. Deep Space Nine proved they were gold. Ironically, it was Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, that unlocked the Ferengi's full potential. Through characters like Quark, brilliantly portrayed by Armin Shimmerman, the Ferengi became layered, political, and even sympathetic. The show explored the absurdity of the rules of acquisition while also interrogating sexism, labor exploitation, religious extremism, and cultural reform within Ferengi society. Suddenly, they weren't a failed villain species. They were a satirical mirror. Episodes involving the Grand Nagus revealed a civilization teetering between tradition and progress. The introduction of reformist Ferengi challenged the rigid dogma of profit above all. Even their misogyny, initially played for shock, became a vehicle for storytelling about systemic oppression. DS9 didn't abandon the humor. It weaponized it. And that's exactly what TNG never tried to do. The missed opportunity. Ideological conflict. Here's the real tragedy. The Ferengi were perfectly positioned to challenge Captain Picard on a philosophical level. Jean-Luc Picard was the embodiment of enlightened Federation values, diplomatic, intellectual, morally grounded. Imagine a season-long arc where the Enterprise encounters a Ferengi consortium undermining developing worlds with exploitative contracts. Or a storyline where,